Hey everyone, it's Mariana and I am back with another Game of Thrones recap and review. If you haven't seen the episode yet, this is your spoiler warning because these recaps are not spoiler free. Please catch up on the show and then come back so we can talk about it. So season 6 episode 4, Book of the Stranger, love the title by the way, was pretty exciting. Some great moments in it. We're building up to even greater things and my favorite character is finally back on screen. Let's talk about all of it. Starting at Castle Black, which seems to be a tradition this season, Jon Snow is planning to leave and he is planning to go south and get warm. Ed is trying to talk him out of it. He wants him to stay because he knows the White Walkers are coming, but Jon seems to be pretty set on leaving and going about his life without the Night's Watch. Before their argument gets too far, Sansa, Brienne, and Pod show up. That moment when Sansa and Jon see each other and then this beautiful theme starts playing and they finally embrace, the tears just came to my eyes. This is our first real Stark reunion and it was such a beautiful, emotional scene. I was waiting for this to happen and it was perfect. One of my favorite parts of the episode. After that, Jon and Sansa have a bit of a heart-to-heart. They put whatever disagreements they had when they were younger behind them, and now they are going to stick together. Sansa actually wants to go back and take Winterfell, which Jon isn't very excited about. He is not on board with that. He's done fighting, but I love that Sansa is the one with this idea. She is finally standing up for herself and for her family, future Queen of the North here. She says, I want you to help me, but I'll do it myself if I have to. There's also a quick scene where Davos asks Melisandre what is she going to do now. She says she's going to do whatever Jon tells her to do because he is the prince who was promised. Davos has some words about that one, but he wants to know what happened to Stannis and Shireen, at which point Brienne steps in and pretty much announces that she executed Stannis and they all just have to deal with it. And speaking of Brienne, how many of you are shipping Tormund and Brienne now? Because I certainly am. He has been shooting some looks her way this entire episode and I am loving it. I am 100% on board with them becoming a couple and I would love to see that happen. At the Vale, Sweet Robin is failing at archery when Peter Baelish finally shows up. Yay! Lord Royce attempts to question his actions, implying that he lied about where he was going with Sansa, but Baelish expertly turns this right back around to Lord Royce. After that, he tells Robin that Sansa is now in danger because she escaped Winterfell and now Ramsay Bolton is after her. Robin, of course, says, she's my cousin, we should help her, which is exactly what Baelish wants, and now he has the Knights of the Vale to command, in a way, and he is going to lead them right into the Battle of the Bastards that is absolutely going to happen. We know it's coming. It's going to happen, and I am so glad that Baelish is going to help out. What is his game plan here? I think that he is planning to help Sansa take back Winterfell and kill Ramsay Bolton in order to marry her himself later and become Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. We all know Baelish doesn't do things without having something to gain. That's what it looks like to me, at least. What do you guys think? At Meereen, Tyrion and Varys want to negotiate with the masters of other cities of Slaver's Bay, but Grey Worm and Missandei are not on board with this, especially because Tyrion has this controversial proposition. He wants to give the Masters 7 years to end slavery with compensation in exchange for them cutting off support for Sons of the Harpy, which seems like a good diplomatic solution, but of course, Grey Worm and Missandei are former slaves, and to them, this is insane. Later, Grey Worm and Missandei try to warn Tyrion about the Masters, and Grey Worm tells him, you will not use them, they will use you, that is what they do. I have to say, even though Tyrion is skilled in politics, I think it is his mistake to try to apply Westerosi politics to Slaver's Bay, where things just work differently. I, of course, am rooting for Tyrion. He's one of my favorite characters, but I have a feeling that this is going to blow up in his face and they're going to have some big problems with some kind of war within the city after this, because there are going to be a lot of unhappy former slaves because he made this deal with the slavers from other cities. Generally, I am still not loving the Marine storyline, but it is better and more interesting this episode than it was in the previous episodes because there's something actually going on, but I do hope it gets much better soon because currently it's kind of one of my lesser favorite storylines, even though it has some of my favorite characters involved. In the meantime, Jorah and Daario make it to Vaes Dothrak, and they are still working on putting their differences behind. This time, Jorah wants them to leave their weapons behind because they are not allowed in the city, and while he's reaching for Daario's dagger, he exposes his grayscale patch, and now Daario knows and obviously doesn't want him touching his things, and also takes this opportunity to conceal the dagger and still take it into the city, which ended up being a good thing because of course they run into two Dothraki men who don't believe them that they are merchants, and fighting ensues, and if Daario didn't have that dagger, Jorah probably would have been dead. They eventually try to rescue Daenerys when she's taken a walk with another young Khaleesi, but Daenerys tells them to give her a minute because she has a different plan. She thinks they can do better than just run, and at the end of the episode we find out what that plan is. And basically, while the men are deciding her fate at the temple of the Dosh Khaleen, she pretty much tells them she is going to rule the Dothraki and then burns the entire place down along with everyone who was in it. But of course, she isn't hurt by the fire, so as she emerges from this burning building, all of the Dothraki in the city, along with Jorah and Daario, kneel before her. This scene was a big throwback to season 1 finale when she did not die at Drogo's funeral pyre, except for this time around there were many more people around to see her rise from the flames and then obviously follow her. One of you, after my recap of episode 3, actually reminded me of something important from A Clash of Kings, which is one of the prophecies that she received. She received a lot of prophecies in A Clash of Kings, but one of the things that she was told was that in order to go forward, she must go back. And this scene, the way it echoes the scene at Drogo's funeral pyre and the way she rises from the flames and gains power that way, definitely fits the description. Does that mean that she's actually going to go to Westeros sometime soon? I think it might, but we'll see what happens. You never know. Speaking of Westeros, at King's Landing, Septa Unella takes Marjorie to talk to the High Sparrow. I know a lot of you dislike the Sparrow's storyline, and I can kind of understand why. Religious fanatics are never fun, and the High Sparrow can talk anybody to death. Personally, I don't actually hate this as a concept, and I think it adds a certain level of realism to this world. Also, dealing with zealotry is different from dealing with any other problems that they have, so I find it pretty interesting. But even I have to agree that this was one too many monologues from the High Sparrow. I could have done without it, and I'm really hoping we can move on from this soon. Marjorie finally gets to see her brother, who is not in good shape. She tries to tell him that he has to stay strong, but Loras is tired. He wants out. He doesn't care anymore who's going to win. He just wants his suffering to end. You can tell that Marjorie is already plotting what's coming next, and she is definitely coming out of this stronger than before, which can't say the same for Loras, but I'm excited to see what her next move is. Tommen, on the other hand, is clearly afraid of the High Sparrow, and Cersei is not happy about it. She tries to stir things up a bit, and Tommen ends up telling her about Marjorie's upcoming Walk of Atonement, which is supposed to be the High Sparrow's secret, but Cersei finally has something to use to get the attention of the Queen of Thorns and Kevin Lannister. Littlefinger. Together they devise a plan. The Tyrell army is going to come in. Kevin Lannister is just going to allow for this to happen. He's going to stand down, and the High Sparrow is either to be killed or taken into custody, but they clearly prefer for him to be killed. My excitement for Lannisters versus the Sparrows is intensifying. Meanwhile, at Pike, Theon shows up, and Yara is not the most welcoming sister. She thinks he's there to claim the throne for himself, but apparently Theon just has excellent timing. He keeps apologizing to her and tells her that he wants to help her become the ruler of the Iron Islands. It looks like we have the Kingsmoot coming up next episode, and that's going to be interesting. At Winterfell, Osha is brought before Ramsay, and she tries to seduce him while also planning to kill him with the knife that is on the table, but unfortunately he is prepared for that, so he stabs her before she gets the chance to do anything. Just another day at House Bolton. The minute they focused on that knife and Osha's intentions became clear, I knew she wasn't going to make it through this episode. It is obvious that they are saving Ramsay for Jon and Sansa because they need to avenge the Starks. So sadly, Osha is out of the picture, but I am still very worried about Rickon. I just hope Sansa and Jon get there before he gets hurt. And speaking of that, we get a quick scene at Winterfell where Jon receives a letter from Ramsay Bolton, and the book readers will remember this as the pink letter. It's a little different in the books because it happens a bit earlier, and also some other characters are involved, but generally this is directly from A Dance with Dragons, which I am really happy about. I remember last season wondering why they left it out of the show because the letter is such a big motivator for Jon. So I'm really glad they're actually doing this in the show, and Jon is obviously pissed. This letter pretty much forces his hand to go along with Sansa's plan to take back Winterfell. Right now they think they are outnumbered because Sansa remembers there being 5,000 men in the Bolton army, and they have about 2,000 wildlings currently. Good thing that the Knights of the Vale are about to join them. Battle of the Bastards is happening soon. The episode actually ends on Dany's scene, but I already talked about it. Generally, I find it interesting that along with the theme of the history repeating itself, which is always present in the show, and it was definitely present in this episode as well, we also get this theme of rebirth going on. We have Jon coming back from the dead and finding his new purpose. We have Daenerys emerging from the flames, seemingly stronger than she was before. We also have Theon back at home, kind of with a new goal, finding something new to fight for in a way. And you can also say that Cersei, after her walk of shame, is kind of having to find herself again and having to find her strength again. There are more characters that are doing this. We keep seeing characters emerge from their hardships stronger than ever, and I love seeing that on screen and reading about it in books. It's not that they need to go through something traumatic in order to become stronger. It's the message that no matter how shitty your circumstances are and no matter what you're dealing with, it is up to you to turn it around and to fight for what you want, or to find something else that is more important. I love seeing that, and I think it is a very important message. Overall, a really good episode. A couple of storylines aren't as interesting as the others, but in general, I don't think there was much that was unnecessary in this episode. All of the storylines are being developed. They are going somewhere. Unfortunately, no visions from Bran this time around, but it looks like we're getting some of that next episode. And still no Dorne, which I don't think anybody misses these guys, so that's a good thing as well. That's it for my recap and review of Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 4, Book of the Stranger. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode, and what was your favorite part of the episode, what was your least favorite part of the episode. Personally, I really enjoyed it, and I'm very much looking forward to what's happening next. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!